Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together, one frame at a time. Hey guys, I'm Randy Younger, and this is another episode of Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together, one frame at a time. And with me today, I have a wonderful panel, a panel that I've been waiting for a long, long time to get together again. We've got Miss Ivy Lofberg, welcome back,
So happy to be here. Thank you.
and Mr. Tyler Michael, welcome back, Tyler.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back.
Mhm. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, we met the three of us maybe a couple months ago to do the John Landis retrospective and Trading Places 40th anniversary show, which was amazing, which was a lot of, we had so much to say that night. And it actually had to be divided up into a two-parter. And I think that could have been a four-parter for all it's worth, to be honest with you. So,
Definitely.
yeah, that was definitely one of my all-time favorite episodes to record, and I want to just thank you guys again for making that such a special episode.
Thank you. Means
Yeah,
a
Thank you.
lot.
of
It's
course.
so wonderful.
Yes, and now today we're going to switch gears a bit, and we are going to discuss one of my all-time favorite actors, Mr. Michael Keaton. And yeah, what a career this man has had. It's incredible. He started out in sitcoms in like the 70s and early 80s. Then he kind of transitioned into comedy roles in film, and then he became Batman, and then he was also doing experimenting in dramas at the time with Clean and Sober, which was the same year as Beetlejuice. And, you know, he had kind of a career slump in the mid to late 90s. I think Jack Frost was like his last big movie, which was kind of sad that that was his send off. But he did kind of get back into the game with the first movie we're going to be discussing and reviewing a retro review of 2014's Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, which this movie is insane. It is a crazy meta dramedy with an all-star cast. We've got Zach Galifianakis, Edward Norton, Andrea Riceborough, or is it Andrea, Amy Ryan, Emma Stone, and Naomi Watts. It's directed by, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, who, as you guys know, is a very accomplished Mexican filmmaker. And Birdman went on to win a number of Oscars, including Best Picture in 2015. And it is just a great story. Basically a comeback story of a washed up actor played by Keaton who wants to basically become relevant again by directing, adapting, and starring in a Raymond Carver play. And yeah, basically, Inarritu wanted to shoot this in or make it seem like it was one continuous take, and it looks brilliant. The visual effects are great. The acting is perfect in my opinion, and it's just a fun and thought-provoking film. And since Tyler, it's been a while for you, sir. What was it like revisiting Birdman?
Well, I haven't seen the film since it came out, actually. And
Hmm.
I remember some people around me, including my mom and her boyfriend, they thought the film sucked.
Oh,
And I wanted to go into the film with an open mind because I always am. And I went to see this film and I was blown away. Like, I can understand why audiences, well, aren't used to this kind of film because it's shot differently. It's a little more surreal. It's kind of mixing different kinds of genres together, like, tragedy, surrealism, backstage drama, all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
But that's what I loved about it. It honestly reminded me of the film All That Jazz with Roy Scheider, how that was like a backstage film, but it was also, a character study and it was done in a very surreal way
Hmm.
where we get into his mind literally. And that's what we do in Birdman.
Gotcha.
And watching it again, it's just as awesome as I remember it. This is my second time seeing it. And after all these years, I felt like it was shorter than that because the film left a big impression on my mind. Like
Yeah.
I still remember the key scenes. I still remember most of the visuals. I remember being blown away by its shots. I still remember the jazzy score.
Yeah.
and his fantasy score that sounds cinematic at times when he, embraces the Birdman persona. Like
Yeah.
it's just a well-made movie with, as you said, perfect performances. And this film made me appreciate Michael Keaton as an actor even more
Yeah.
because he really nails it. I feel like I'm not saying the film would fall without him, but he's really a staple of what makes the film work. I can't see anybody else playing this role in
I
a
know,
movie.
and it's so crazy how they incorporate the movie within a movie, Birdman, and obviously everyone knows, the Keaton did play Batman twice in
Mm-hmm.
1909 and 1992, and they actually say, "Oh, the last time I put that Birdman suit on was 1992." So I love it when they do stuff like that,
Yeah.
and it just fit so perfectly. It was just so good. All the elements were in place. This movie was pretty ambitious to make it seem like one continuous take. And I heard that the rehearsals were a little tough, especially the editing. So
Mm-hmm.
they had to like write the film and then kind of match it with the visuals. So a really strong undertaking from the filmmaking staff, especially from Inarritu. So Ivy, what were your thoughts going back into this great film?
I consider Keaton like a stage actor who went into film. Like he's like when you think of an actor, I feel like Keaton is such a perfect representation of that, and to have him thinking about all of the things that go into celebrity and stardom and relevance and who's a real actor and who's not a real actor. And I love Edward Norton in it so much, who's really just busting his chops about thinking he can be a real actor taking on the theater, like the whole kind of war between like people actors who become superheroes and actors who like are really consider themselves stage actors. And also the funny thing now is also Edward Norton did join the Marvel universe, is the Hulk. So it's such a funny take, I feel like, of like all of the things that these actors I feel like are examining, and we're kind of examining culturally too, like what with all of these incredible performers becoming superheroes and in these like big budget superhero movies, are what are they still considered, really incredible actors. And I just love Michael Keaton is such a perfect example of someone who is playing with that, and I think exploring how that may have affected his career at the time that he kind of went into, these realms that I think now, we don't so much consider it anymore. I think we look at Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man now, and I think they wanted to give him an Oscar, so it's changed a lot in that regard. But there was no movie before or after that that really captured everything to do with that entire change, I think, in the movie industry. And so I think Birdman is such a genius film in that regard. And I feel like it's also a really funny, great joke about all of the one takes where like Marvel movies and all the superhero movies, DC, I love DC too. They're, all green screened and highly like they're just the actors are kind of playing to a tennis ball. Like to make a film where you have to stay in the frame, for a really long time, and there's not cuts, there's not green screens, there's real things going on in that scene. I feel like it was like a homage to that as well.
Mhm.
Maybe I think too much into it, but I just thought it was such a genius film that I think really holds up.
Yeah, it
Indeed.
really is genius. It's a great look at celebrity and the nature of acting, the whole profession and how people view it. Is it just a popularity thing, or are there real artists out there who want to adapt, kind of a not a very well-known play, I guess, or just kind of do something to stay relevant as opposed to be like the next superhero. And yeah, actually, a lot of the other actors here. So Keaton was Batman, Norton was the Hulk, and we've got Emma Stone, who was in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man films. So there's a lot of parallels to the
Mm.
superhero film industry. But more movies need to be made like this because it really is a great commentary on acting and the nature of art, and very very philosophical at times. The
Hmm.
ending is a little, it leaves, it's up to interpretation. You know, I mean, this is 10 years later, so I guess we have some spoilers here. So we don't know if he's actually flying or if he's just if he committed suicide. I don't know.
I
But
think it's the latter, personally.
yeah, yeah. Because at the very end, the last shot, Emma Stone is looking up and she's smiling. So maybe he's actually flying. He has finally become Birdman in real life. So,
Well, I think he actually shot himself in the during the stage show. And
oh,
what
he
was
did that. He shot his nose
Yeah, I
off.
know that. I think he actually died from shooting himself
Oh,
because
interesting.
the gun was placed more around his head than it was towards his nose.
And so all that stuff in the hospital with the new
It's
nose.
just like a fantasy, like,
Yeah,
this is the success he would dream of having.
interesting.
Wow, that's so interesting.
That
I
is,
love.
Yeah.
that's a very good take. Yeah, I'd go with that. It's pretty
Yeah,
good.
so
I
more like an epilogue, in other words,
No,
that leaves you in wonderment.
right. Interesting take.
I love that too, that take too, because I really love in the movie that it really brings to mind like he has this image of himself, but Emma Stone kind of brings in his daughter who's really broken by having him as her dad and doesn't really resolve that much by the end. Like he doesn't do much to resolve that either. And I think that's a really interesting take, Tyler, because she does kind of come in like they've had a kind of reckoning, which they really don't. In the he doesn't really do much to that, and I really love too that Edward, and it's a real commentary on actors too behaving badly. Like Edward Norton also acts like he's kind of a god just because he's a good stage actor, but he's kind of a nightmare to work with.
Yeah.
It's terrible to everybody. So I love that commentary too of actors who I think because they're playing these roles and they're acting on the stage and being superheroes that they're automatically great people and Rob telling them that's no, you're not.
And that's funny too, because I believe the actual Edward Norton is pretty much hard to work with. Like he's developed a really strong reputation as being kind of a bad boy on set and just not easy to work with. So it's kind of cool that they're, and it's brave of, actors like Edward Norton to make a movie like this, which is kind of a commentary on his own life and Keaton especially. So that's what makes this movie so special and so great is that it's self-aware and it knows what it is, and it's a commentary on what these actors are actually going through in real life. And
Hmm.
I think that's at the core. That's the best part of Birdman. So
Like,
Can I share a funny inside story on Edward Norton?
sure.
Be a dog walker in Tribeca, and I walked the dog of a director, and he was doing a movie with Edward Norton, and so I came up in the elevator with the director's dog, and it's one that opened right into the apartment, and I hear this like voice as the elevator is coming up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I knew that voice, and it opened up, and it was Edward Norton sitting at the kitchen table, like very passionately going over his character and like needing to like discuss a lot about the movie and his character and they're not this is Edward Norton, this is Edward, like yeah.
I know. I know who you are. That's so cool.
Yeah, and I was like okay, I'm out of here, but it was cool to see him sitting at the kitchen table discussing his craft very passionately.
Was he cool? Was he nice?
He was like very like his character in the movie, like he was just very like we got to get this character right and you have to do this correctly, and he was like he's very passionate about what he does.
Cool. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's accurate. Um, so yeah, guys, I mean, this movie is so great, so crazy. I'm so happy it won the Oscar for Best Picture. And it's funny because the following year, 2015, Spotlight won Best Picture, and that also features a leading role from Keaton. So this was a good time for Keaton for sure. It was definitely a comeback story for the
Mhm.
ages, and I'm so happy that we got to discuss this movie. It definitely warrants multiple viewings. I've only seen it twice as well, like you, Tyler. So I'm gonna probably have to see it again a few more times to fully like absorb it and all its beauty. But guys, final thoughts on Birdman, Tyler?
All I can just say is it's a film that gets better and better with each viewing. I forget how amazing the film is. And honestly, its commentary is so timeless that honestly, it holds up just kind of like the commentary in Tropic Thunder, just minus less of the comedy and more of the drama, or if it was
Mhm.
just really going for subtle dark comedy. It's
Yeah.
just it's just a very powerful film by every means, both on a writing, filmmaking, acting, and even thematic level. So that's all I can.
And a lot of it was shot in New York City, which I love. I love when they shoot in the city, and it's a lot of fun there. Also, guys, before we go to our second review, I've got a little Hawkman action figure here
Nice.
from the this is from the 80s line of superhero action figures, Superpowers. And this is Hawkman from DC. I thought I would, just have him making a little appearance here. But whatever. Ivy, how about you? Final thoughts on Birdman?
I love him. Yeah, also it's really it's a lot of magical realism, I would say. So I agree to just like let it wash over you, like just go along for the ride, like don't try to add too much like intellectual, like, oh, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. Like it's not meant to. It's meant to be more of like a magical realism experience, where you just get to sit with it and enjoy it and think about it, and view it multiple times and see it in different ways, and so it's really wonderful in that regard. And I think if you're looking for it to be like a very linear, straightforward movie, it will be very confusing. But if you
Right.
just allow yourself to enjoy the ride, I think it's a very special movie.
Yeah, and I'd say it's a piece of art, really. It really is artfully done. It's beautiful. The shots are great. The performances again are pretty perfect. And the score is great too. Very percussive, a lot of drums going
Hmm.
on. There's a lot of, I think, classical music pieces that are played all throughout. And yeah, I love this movie. It does get better with every viewing. So I plan to see it a lot more. All right, so that's Birdman or the unexpected virtue of ignorance. And now we're gonna go back 30 years, gonna step into our time machine and see we're gonna discuss the paper, 1994 Ron Howard dramedy, which is basically a day in the life of a New York City newspaper, which is trying to figure out whether or not they want to run this really important news story about two murdered businessmen. And basically, they don't know whether that these two young teenagers did it or if they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's basically about this journalism team to try to uncover the truth before the newspaper goes to print. And you've got another amazing cast here, guys. Uh, Obviously, you've got Michael Keaton in the leading role here. We've got Glenn Close, Marissa Tomei, Randy Quaid, Robert Duvall. We've got even Jason Alexander in a very small role.
Hmm.
And again, Ron Howard at the helm, one of my all-time favorite directors. And this movie is just really fun, it's really fast paced. It's always moving. It's very dialogue heavy. And I thought it was going to be very appropriate to pair with Birdman in that respect because it's very character driven. And it's basically a day in the life of something really big and important going on. So I'm a fan of this movie. I'm a huge fan of Howard. Howard, we all know he's done a bunch of great stuff, notably with Keaton, actually. I think his first film with him was Night Shift back in the early 80s. They worked on a few years after that in Gung Ho, which is another comedy. And yeah, Ron Howard, he can do no wrong, in my opinion. Ivy,
The Grinch. Sorry.
the Grinch. Oh, you're right. Well, that wasn't that had some redeeming qualities. The costume design was pretty good. Makeup,
Yeah, no, there are some merits. It just,
yeah, it's a weird
it's
one.
not, it's not the classic that I think people are praising it to be. Sorry.
No, no, it's out there. I'll give you that. Um, but yeah, Ivy, the paper. Was this your first time seeing it?
It was, and there really would not be the kind of dramatic television we have now without Ron Howard. This, when I watch this, it's like now this movie would be a like limited series, HBO or
Right,
Apple
right,
TV.
right.
Hmm.
It really, I really highly recommend watching Ron Howard's work and his contemporaries, because now we get these as television series and not as movies anymore. And this movie is so extraordinary. And I
Mm,
think we're so used to now movies not being like this. We're so used to seeing them as television series. I feel like that might this now would be cut into, like a series, and like each like it might be, every couple of hours would be an episode. To have like this level of talent and to dedicate an entire movie to the day in the life, was such a pleasure to watch. It was such a pleasure to watch all of these incredible actors at the top of their game. Just really, the ensemble acting is really exceptional. I think this is, I almost feel like this is like a lost movie. Like it should
mm,
be bigger and more beloved, I feel like, than it is. Like I feel like it's one of those movies not a lot of people remember or know about, that
yeah,
is a really important film in film history because of just the quality of acting, the quality of, I think what they're talking about is still really very relevant today. It's
yeah,
very contemporary and really modern. And it really, if you don't know Michael Keaton, it also really shows you what a dramatic actor Michael Keaton is. And I feel like he does really hold this incredible place of, that Michael Keaton was Batman and was a superhero. And he's like, he represents, I feel like, this kind of leading man that isn't going to be like a Arnold Schwarzenegger or Bradley Cooper or Steven Seagal. He's like kind of like more of like a everyman. And he brings real intelligence, and you can imagine him, he elevates, I feel like, the everyman into like these really exalted kind of places where he's showing, just the life of a newspaper man. And
mm,
it's riveting, and everybody involved is really like they're there to play, like they're really there to give their best.
right.
And I really think you everyone should see this. If you love movies, you should see this movie.
Speaking to the everyman aspect of Keaton, I believe Tom Hanks was also approached for this role, or he was considered, and that did not work out. Funny, real quick thing, you guys know I love Hanks. He and Keaton aren't very different. Like they both started out in the late 70s, early 80s in sitcoms. Keaton did he did a show called Working Stiffs, which was from like the late 70s. It was him and Jim Belushi, as two kind of like loser guys they work as like painters at an office building, and they get into all these like hijinks, kind of like Perfect Strangers. And Tom Hanks was in Bosom Buddies, where he pretends to be a woman with his friend so they can get a cheaper rate by living in this all girls dormitory. And then they kind of just throughout the 80s, they did a bunch of comedies. Then the late 80s, early 90s, they kind of shifted into drama. So I could have easily seen Hanks in this role too, but I am kind of glad we got Keaton because Keaton knocked it out of the park. This movie, yeah, I'm a big fan of this movie. It's not a good movie for when you're a kid because Ron Howard, he's done a couple of fantasy adventures like Willow, which are more kid friendly. But then he makes a movie like this, or he makes a movie like Apollo 13 the following year, 1995, which is fantastic. It blows you out. That blew my mind. But the paper, yeah, this is a really fun one, and I was really excited to revisit it because now I'm a little bit older and I have a better appreciation for his dramatic or his dramedy works. But yeah, Tyler, thoughts on the paper?
Yes, now I'll be honest, I didn't love it as much as I did Birdman. However, I do think it's an incredibly made film. Mainly because I love its balance between being a serious drama and a comedy. Like
Mm.
it's also lighthearted in the right places, but dark where it needs to be. And again, the commentary about how the newspaper system works is still timeless, still relevant to this day. But what I really appreciate from the film is the sharp writing from, forgive me if I say his name wrong, David Coop.
I think it's Cope.
Cope, excuse me.
I think. Well,
Well,
I could be mistaken too, but
well, his writing is very sharp to the point. It's fast, it's energized, it captures the hectic nature of working on the paper, and the jokes in the first half of the film come by so fast that's easy to miss them. It kind of reminds me of something like His Girl Friday in terms of that humor. How it's
Mm.
just so quick to the point, but you also got to really pay attention. Otherwise, you'll miss a good chunk of the humor. And it's always going at a fast pace.
It could almost be like an Aaron Sorkin screenplay. You know what I mean? Which they would basically do in the Jeff Daniels series, The Newsroom, which has a similar feel to the paper.
As well as the characters. I can't say they're like deep characters or anything, but the thing is also they're also so fun to watch that honestly, as Ivy mentioned earlier, they could be characters in their own show. They could be characters in a series. I could see that working.
This would have been an amazing sitcom, I think. Kind
It
of,
would be because they're
yeah,
written because they kind of feel like sitcom characters in a good way, but the
right.
drama to it really just gives it that weight. The whole outlook on how the papers are just so concerned with getting a story than just telling the truth. Like
Yeah.
all that stuff just adds a lot of weight to the film, makes it more than just a generic comedy. And Michael
Yeah.
Keaton as an actor, the reason why I love him so much as an actor is he's very subtle. Like
Hmm.
when he plays the everyday man, he's not big, only where he has to be in comedic moments, but mostly you're just reading his facial expressions because he's so calculating. You feel there's more going on in his head than what his words can give you.
And plus he's a very physical actor. Like it's not just the way he speaks, but it's the way he like expresses himself with his hands, with his body. He's very like high energy in a lot of his roles, even as Bruce Wayne, especially in like Batman Returns, the scene where he's making out with Michelle Pfeiffer on the couch, and then he finds out that there's a crime going on downtown, and he gets like he jumps out of the couch and he's like, it's like this is like 80s comedic Michael Keaton right now, and I'm loving it. And we get a ton of that in Birdman. We get that here in the paper and I could watch it all day long. He's uh, next to Hanks, he's my favorite actor. He's my second favorite actor, and I wish we had
Mhm.
more time, but he's just he's one of a kind, and I'm so grateful for Birdman and for bringing him back to us, really back to the back to the brilliant Keaton that we all love, and it's his renaissance. He's back, and he's just a fantastic actor. I want to see more of his work.
By all means, yes, he is definitely.
So guys, real quick, final thoughts on the paper, Ivy?
I feel like it's one of those movies where it's just very satisfying. It's really, you won't feel like after you watched it like you just haven't experienced anything. Like it's really an enjoyable but very enriching experience. It's also really interesting in it to see, if you live in New York, how much Williamsburg and Greenpoint has changed. in that time is pretty interesting as well for whatever that's worth. But I highly recommend it.
Tyler, final thoughts?
Well, overall, I say for those that are interested in getting to the paper business, this, along with Citizen Kane, is one of the films I highly recommend people to see. Like I said, it captures the chaos. It's very funny and witty about its commentary. It's serious in the right places to keep you on the edge of your seat. It just makes you a little wiser what's going on, of how, how dishonest the business can be and how trying the business can really be. And yeah, it's definitely one of Michael Keaton's finest. So
Definitely.
definitely love it and definitely plan to see it again.
Yeah, it's just a fun movie. I was just again really looking forward to seeing it, and the lighthearted nature of it, and just the great performances just really made put a smile on my face, basically. Which is I can't say the same for another similar film, Spotlight, which I mentioned earlier, which also starred Keaton in a newsroom setting. That movie is a little more intense. It's a little more dark, but it's interesting to just to kind of watch both of them side by side and kind of compare. But if you want to just like a nice breezy watch, check out The Paper,
Mm.
uh, and that is from 1994, celebrating its 30th anniversary. All right, guys, so we are just about out of time, and I just want to go around real quick if we have any plugs, anything we want to mention, Tyler.
As usual, I've recently posted my rankings for the 007 video games.
Cool.
And I'm currently working on a ranking list of my favorite films from 1993, which is going to be a very, very long list. I've been trying to do this for years, and yeah, it's now also currently in the work. So check it out on my blog, Tyler Movie Maniac. You can also follow me on Instagram under Tyler the Movie Maniac, or if you have a Facebook, you can follow me on that as well under, again, Tyler the Movie Maniac. They're all the same.
Nice. And I saw your list already, and it's extensive, my friend.
Well, that's one thing I want to mention. It's not just going to be films; it's going to be short films, international films, TV movies, uh, straight to video films. I'm including the whole works. That's why it's so long.
I love it. It's good. And I'm sure you're starting your 1994 list, right?
I'm debating. I think my next big extensive list is actually going to be Best Picture winners.
Ooh.
I'm going to try to rank those.
And I'll have to have you back on and we could do a little discussion on that too, but we'll see.
I would love to, though. I
Yeah,
really would
anytime.
love to.
Anytime. Ivy, any plugs real quick?
Well, I'd lastly also love to plug the beauty, wonder, and beauty of Tom Hanks and Michael Keaton, two incredible leading mans. Just continuing to celebrate those two actors as being incredible and very special. And personally, you can follow me at my Instagram at Ivy Lofberg, and really happy to be here. Thank you, Andy.
And as for me, you can check out new episodes of Under the Radar Slam Radio, and that's through Sirius XM every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Also, you can catch the video version of Under the Radar every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. And as always, feel free to subscribe to the Under the Radar YouTube channel and share the love. So, Ivy, Tyler, thank you so much for this. I'm so glad we got to make this happen again. And I can't wait for the next time we all meet, together and a meeting of the minds. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. I'm Randy Younger. This has been Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together one frame at a time. We'll see you next time. Take care.